Hey guys, Liana here. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about what they don't tell you about having a C-section. I'm going to do another video about my whole birth story, but long story short, I had preeclampsia. They tried to induce me for 2 days. It didn't work, and I ended up with a C-section because of preeclampsia. And preeclampsia was one of the things that I was not going to mess with. That can kill me, it could kill my baby. So that being said, I never really prepared myself for a C-section. I knew that it was major surgery. I knew they had to cut you open and take the baby out. That was pretty much it. So I wasn't really prepared for the whole process of going into surgery and healing from it. So these are just some things that I learned along the way. Personally, by this point in time, I wasn't scared. I wasn't terrified being wheeled back there, but it can be very scary. All of a sudden you're being told that you should be prepped for major surgery. People forget that a C-section is major surgery. They have to cut through several layers of fat and tissue in order to even reach the sac and the baby. Not to mention then they've got to take the baby out and pull it through all of those other sections of fat. I mean, it's major operation, and people pass it off as just some other thing. They say it's the easy way out. Let me tell you, it's not easy. You talk to a lot of people who've had both a vaginal and a C-section, and they'll tell you, hands down, it was much more difficult to heal from the C-section. So I wasn't scared, but it can be very scary. You're going back into this room generally by yourself in the beginning, although your significant other or somebody else, if you choose, can come back. They'll be in their surgery gown, but in the beginning, they're going to give you, if you had an epidural, which I did not, if you had an epidural, they'll leave that in, I think, but I had a spinal. So they basically came in, the anesthesiologist said, hey, this is what's going to happen, don't move, and he got to work. So a tip I'm going to give you, one of my first tips, is when you're sitting there, if you're feeling weird things going on in your body, say them out loud. Like, that kind of helped me be in the moment when I could turn to my anesthesiologist and say, hey, is this normal or is that normal? And yeah, it was normal. The spinal for me was interesting. It didn't hurt, but it didn't not hurt, if that makes any sense. It was a nerve twinge in your back and kind of like a little pinch, but then you had to lay down like that, because if you didn't, you were not going to be able to move. And it wasn't really that bad. Like, everybody freaks out and is like, oh my god, you're gonna have a spinal. No, it's not bad. It's one time. The epidural would freak me out, but the spinal is just one time and you're good to go. The room was just like a regular OR room. There's equipment everywhere. There's doctors and nurses roaming around prepping the room. They do it all the time, so it's nothing for them. And they were very engaging with me too. They were talking a lot. My doctor, my OB, was fantastic, and that's I'm gonna save that for my birth story video. They do have to put a catheter in you, which, because you're gonna be numb. So if you had an epidural, you already have one anyway, but if you end up going in for a spinal, just be aware of that. I actually ended up, later on when they came to take it out, I'd already pushed mine out apparently, so didn't bother me any. As you start to go numb, I don't know if this is true with the epidural. Like I said, I've never had one. So if you've had an epidural, go ahead and let us know down below if this is the same for you. You're going numb. Now it's supposed to go from basically like your legs up to like under your boobs, right? And so because you're going numb from that, it's totally normal to feel all those muscles that you need to breathe that you don't typically feel. So for me, I was sitting there going, am I gonna pass out? Like, this is weird, like they haven't even started anything and I'm feeling like this. And so I voiced my concern, and the anesthesiologist said, oh, it's totally normal. Like, don't worry about it. You're fine. It's totally normal. It's because everything's trying to go numb. So half the muscles that you normally use, you don't normally recognize them, but now you are, because half of them are numb. It's the weirdest sensation ever. You can get a clear curtain if you would like. They didn't offer, and I didn't ask, quite honestly, because I love watching surgeries, but not sure I'd want to watch one on myself. So if you've had a clear curtain, go ahead and comment down below, because I'd be really curious about your experience. And if you did, like, more power to you. I don't think I could have, but points to you. The other thing is the OR, because it's an OR, is actually very cold. I mean, I'm talking freezing. You're just in a little hospital gown, you know, with the flaps open in the back. I mean, it's freezing in there. And then you've got all these hormone flushes from, you know, labor. And then if they put, you know, medication or whatever in your body, and then not to mention during the surgery itself, you're losing blood because it's surgery. So you just expect to be really, really cold. The next thing that nobody told me about, and I read pregnancy books, I read birth books, and some wonderful books, which I'll talk about in another video, was the shakes. Now, apparently this is true for both vaginal and cesarean, because I asked a bunch of my other friends who had vaginal deliveries and they all were like, yeah, totally. What I mean by the shakes, I'm not like, oh, it's just because it's cold in here. No, no, no. I mean, like, because your hormones are flushing out of your system. I mean, like, shakes. Like, they handed me my son and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna drop him. I didn't drop him, but it felt, your whole body was just shaking because of these hormones flushing out of you. And that actually still, 14 months later, still sticks out in my brain as one of the memorable things from that, going, oh my God, what are these shakes? Again, it's normal, it's part of the hormone flush, something that they never told you even when I was prepping for a natural birth. So I just wanted to throw that one out there. I tell everybody who wants to listen about it, because that was something that was never told to me. And actually when I mentioned to my mom, she went, oh yeah, I forgot about the shakes. Like, you know, so if people know about it, and I don't think everybody has it, but it's common. It's very common. So just don't be scared if all of a sudden you feel like this uncontrollable urge to just shake and shiver everywhere. And I'm sure that the cold does not help either. And don't let anybody tell you that, barring any kind of complications, obviously, if it's a regular run-of-the-mill C-section, skin to skin immediately following birth is possible. I know because I had it. The hospital I was at was very much an advocate for skin to skin, as long as it's not like there's something, an emergency going on, that's going to be a little bit different. If it's just a regular run-of-the-mill, they're very into skin to skin. They birthed him, which I thought they were still prepping me. That's a story for another time. They birthed him and weighed him real quick and then set him on my chest. Like, literally, it was bam, 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 bam. And they were still stitching me up. Be prepared for them to still be stitching you up. And I was holding my son. I mean, we had skin to skin. Immediately, he was just kind of laying there. I offered him the boob. He didn't want anything to do with that, because, I mean, somebody just yanked him out of his home. I wouldn't want something to eat either. I'd be like, what is this? But it's totally a thing to have skin to skin. If your hospital is not a big one for skin to skin, advocate for it. Say, look, I know I'm having a C-section, whether it's scheduled or maybe like me with the preeclampsia, and you're going, well, I want skin to skin. Ask for it. Like, say, hey, this is something that I want, barring any obviously medical complications. I want this. So advocate for yourself, because it is possible, and it's wonderful and beautiful to hold this little tiny, well, my son wasn't tiny, he was 10 pounds 6 ounces at birth, hey-oh, but it was just, it's one of the best feelings in the world, I would say. So definitely advocate for that if that's something you want to do. So the next thing I want to tell you about the C-section is that you're going to feel some tugging. Whether or not you have an epidural or a spinal, whatever, it's going to just feel like tugging. It doesn't hurt, it just feels like somebody pulling on your skin, because they're pulling on a lot of your skin, and they're birthing somebody out of your body. So what's weird is if you're able to have skin to skin. So I was holding my son and they were still tugging on me down there because they're stitching me up. So I was holding him while they were stitching me up. And even before that, they had the curtain up, my husband came in, we were talking and everything, and I thought, because I could just only feel tugging, I was like, oh, they must still be prepping me, because they had been prepping me for a few minutes before that. And like, I swear to you, it felt like 2 minutes later, they were pulling my son out, and I saw him, I was like, oh, he's born. Like, I could hear him cry and everything, and it was, all I could feel was tugging. So if you're worried about, oh, is it gonna hurt still? Not if you have a spinal. I don't know about epidural, but I'm assuming it's the same thing. No, you won't. You will just feel tugging. So don't be worried about that. They got you covered. Now, these next things are going to be more about the aftercare of a C-section, so things they don't tell you about recovery. Now, your doctor will probably tell you some generalized things, but I just wanted to kind of run through my list of some things that I try to tell other people about too, and some of them apply to both a vaginal birth and a C-section. The first thing is, it's completely normal to just bawl your eyes out over nothing. And it's also completely normal to not cry at all. Your body just went through a whole 9-month-long experience with all these hormones changing. Labor in and of itself is extremely hormonally intensive. And so now the baby's not in your body, you're not having to sustain baby or stay pregnant, your body is just super flushing out all these hormones. And I remember it was, oh gosh, it was a few days after we got home, and my husband had brought us some Chinese food, and I was walking from the kitchen to the living room, and I dropped my Chinese food on the floor, and I cried so hard. I remember going, all I wanted was this Chinese food. I mean, it was the worst. It was, and it's funny because you see it in your head. I was kind of like outside of myself going like, why are you crying? Like, it's Chinese food on the floor. Like, just don't cry about it. But it's the hormones, man. They'll get you every time. So it's completely normal to cry and also completely normal to not cry at all. It's just everybody goes through their own thing. The next thing I'm going to talk about, that first poop. Can we just talk about that? If you know exactly what I'm talking about, type poop or put a poop emoji down below, because and I've heard this from vaginal deliveries and personal experience from a C-section. That first is not fantastic because your body's been through so much because of hormones. Hormones tie into like everything because of the hormones, and then with the C-section because of the major surgery, and then with the vaginal delivery because of all the pushing and all this kind of stuff. It's not fun. And especially, I can't vouch, again, I can't vouch for vaginal, but for C-section, because we're so sore from them having to literally cut open our body, and that's exactly where all your muscles are that you need to go to the bathroom, it sucks. Like, it hurts. And you're sitting here going, okay, like, come on, it's just pooping. Like, how hard is that gonna be? Like, I just birthed a baby, or they just cut me open, and I'm like a freaking warrior over here. Like, no, it's not fun. They're gonna give you stool softeners, and don't be a martyr, take the stool softeners. If you don't want stool softeners because you want a more natural route, magnesium citrate drink works wonders as well. It's the weirdest because it does hurt, but it also feels like you're not accomplishing anything, if that makes any sense. Like, you feel like, okay, you can push here, but like, is anything even really happening? And then actually when you do go to the bathroom and you look, you're like, that was it. Like, it's the worst. My next piece of advice when you get home is to get yourself like a little pillow. I just got like a little $5 one from IKEA. It's like just a little throw pillow, but you can use a bed pillow, it doesn't really matter. And you're gonna wanna put it against your stomach every time you stand up or sit down, because you use all your abdominal muscles in order to stand up and sit down. You use them a lot more than you think you do. And because they were just all sliced open or pulled and moved around and everything, you're gonna be so sore. And let me tell you, that pillow is gonna be your best friend, because it just kind of helps everything. You can kind of rest against it, I guess would be kind of more of the explanation I'm looking for. And I had that recommended to me by a friend, I think on Facebook, actually said, hey, get yourself a pillow. And if I can't remember what friend it is, I would thank them, because that pillow saved me, especially when you're getting up every couple of hours overnight to feed. That pillow, let me tell you what, eventually you won't need the pillow and you'll be totally fine, but everybody heals at their own pace. So I would just say, take it one day at a time. Which leads me to my next thing is, if you need the meds, take the meds. My doctor prescribed me some pretty high medication for 1 week, and then I had the chance to renew it if I needed to the next week. And I just took it for the 1 week, and then I was okay with just ibuprofen after that. And some people don't take it at all. Some people are like, I need it for a month. Everybody's different, but don't be a martyr. Like, you're already taking care of a shiny new brand new baby. Like, the last thing you want to do is be in a lot of pain while doing it. It sucks because it does make you a little loopy, but I still remember everything from it. So it's not like it's going to bar your memory. The next thing I'm gonna say too is something that I actually still use, and my son is 14 months old, and that's one of these guys. Let's see, it's all kind of wrapped up here. But essentially what this is a body wrap. It kind of goes around your ab. It has Velcro. The hospital should have them. So if you ask for a belly cincher, they're gonna have one for you. The one that the hospital gave me actually fell apart because I used it too much. So this one I got on Amazon. I think it was less than 20 bucks. If I can find it, I'll link it down below. But there's a whole bunch, so it's just your personal preference. I wore that thing every day, especially in the beginning. I wore it every day because it just helps. You feel like you're just kind of falling out everywhere, like, because your stomach was so big, and now all of a sudden it's not as big. It's like a few months less than where it was. So you need something to kind of give you support. And I definitely wore it almost daily for a long time. And now I usually wear it when I go for, like, if I'm going to be outside going for a jog, or if I'm going to go for a walk or what have you, I usually put one on because it just gives that stability so things don't hurt. And make sure you get one from the hospital. If not, then definitely make sure to have one from Amazon or whatever you decide to get one from. The next thing I'm going to tell you about recovery is that it's totally normal to not have any feeling in your abs. My son is 14 months old now, and I would say my lower abs, I still have, like I'm touching it right now, I still have kind of no feeling there. And it's a combination. Sometimes it's no feeling, sometimes it's more of a, I don't want to say nerve pain because that sounds like it's really painful, but basically they cut all your nerve endings. They severed them all. So if you think about like what the end of touching that might feel like, or if you've ever like burned your finger is not a good example. I can't even explain it because I've never had a surgery outside of this, aside from getting my wisdom teeth out. So it's hard for me to kind of describe it, but 14 months out and I still have that issue. Like for a while though, if my son even kind of like grazed my stomach, it would be, oh my God, so much pain. Now, if you think it's an abnormal amount, obviously talk to your doctor. I'm not a doctor, but I'm just saying it's totally normal. So there's pros and cons to this. The pro is when I'm working out, I can't feel it. I can't feel when I'm doing, now I can feel it in my upper abs for sure, but my lower abs, I can't feel it when I'm working out. But the con to this is I can't feel it when I'm working out. Yeah, I know that sounds crazy, right? You're like, what are you talking about? Like, I wish I could do all these sit-ups and not feel it. The problem is you get no feedback from that part of you, so you have no idea if you're even doing anything correctly because your body's not telling you what you're doing. It can suck, but it's totally normal. And some people say they just have maybe no feeling around their scar. Some people have no feeling in the whole area. Some people have all of their feeling. It just varies person to person. I just want to let you know that's totally normal. My other piece of advice is if you can get help in those first couple of weeks, get it. My mother actually stayed with us for 2 weeks when I got out of the hospital, and like I legit cried when she left because she allowed me to be able to heal. Like she would watch my son, or she cooked dinner or made lunch or did some laundry or whatever, and just allowed me to just start the healing process, because you have this brand new baby, but you also just went through labor or major surgery if you had a C-section. Like, I mean, just a few days before that, and it's hard. I mean, you don't go through open heart surgery and then they go, okay, well, go back to work, you know, and all this kind of, they don't do that. So just, if you can get help, definitely get it. Like I said, it would be so worth it in the long run. If you can't have it, you're gonna be fine anyway. But I just thought that if you can get a family member, friend, whomever to come over and help, even if they just come over for a few hours and let you get some sleep. As far as healing goes and pain and all that stuff, it does get better with time. I'm sure it's the same for anybody who's had a tear for a vaginal delivery or anything. It just takes time to heal. If you think about it, your body took 9 months to grow a tiny human. It's going to take some time to bounce back. Another thing I want to tell you is just because you had a C-section does not mean you took the easy way out. I don't know why the mother community decides to tear each other down. Whether you breastfed, you formula fed, you co-slept, they slept in a crib, you had a vaginal delivery, a C-section, doesn't matter. In the end, we all should just be moms supporting moms. But just because you had a C-section, don't let anybody tell you took the easy way out. I don't know anybody who would go up to somebody that had open heart surgery and be like, oh, you fixed your heart, you had an open heart surgery, you took the easy way out, you know, whatever, you should have just done it naturally. Like, seriously? Because you didn't push, it's the easy way out? Like, I think they're both equally difficult. Having been through one and not the other, although we are going to try for a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after cesarean, if we decide to have another one. And then I'll be able to update you guys on the pros and on the differences between the two. It's not easy. None of what I went through was easy. Not wheeling me back into the surgery room by myself, because my husband didn't come in until about 20 minutes after I'd been in the room, having all those doctors wandering around you. They'll talk to you and everything, but most of the time you're just sitting there on the table. You're completely numb from like your ribs all the way down to your legs. You're numb. I mean, you can't move, right? You're completely can't move. You're sitting there in this cold room. They're going to put this curtain up. They're going to cut you open, cut through all of the muscle and fat layers in your body to tug a tiny human out of a hole, a slit in your stomach that's like this big, right? They're going to do that, and then they're going to stitch you up and send you home 2 days later and tell you to take care of this tiny human. I mean, come on. If any time you feel like, oh, I had a C-section, look down at your scar, man. I mean, you birthed a human. If a baby came out of your body, you birthed it. That's just what it is. Birth is coming out. Now, I know there's going to be purists out there that are probably going to hate me and put in the comments, no, vaginal birth is best birth. But really, why are we going to tear everybody down? I think we should all just kind of come together and just support each other, because being a mom is just hard. It's just hard work, and there is no manual. You have 30,000 different choices for everything, and everybody's got their opinion about all of it. So at the end of the day, let's just support each other. That's all it comes down to. That's my tips, advice, and FYIs about what they don't tell you about having a C-section and recovering from one. If you got something from this video, go ahead and type birth down below. If you want to share your birth story or share a tip or something that helped you either cope or recoup or recover or whatever, go ahead and leave that down below too. I'd like to see what everybody else had in their experience. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and click the subscribe button and hit the little notification bell so you'll know every time I upload new videos, which is every week, Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm on all the social media, so go ahead and follow me at Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and Twitter. I'll have my handles down below too. I will see you guys next week. Bye.